Hey everybody, it's Victor Pizzano with Charge Up, and welcome to another edition of the Powercast. Except this time, it's a special edition, because we've got our first Charge Up Powercast interview. I've been telling you for a long time, stay close to Charge Up. We're adding new and exciting content every single month. So what's new? We're interviewing now. You don't have to hear my voice the whole time. You probably get to hear somebody smarter than me. Here's how I kind of put this thing together. My first guest had to be just the right person. I thought about it a lot, and honestly, I decided that it needed to be someone that not only I had admiration for, but I really wanted a young leader. I wanted somebody that if I had to give my two daughters an example of what a leader looked like, what a leader acted like, the certain characteristic and traits, the person I interviewed would be the perfect example. So as I'm putting my notes together and discussing this with the team, it wasn't more than 3 or 4 hours later that I received a text from Molly Fichtner who said, "Hey, I'm going to be in San Antonio for Thanksgiving. Let's get together." And immediately I knew it was a sign. Like Molly was so meant to be the person for this because she's everything I described above. And this is the role model that I would point to my kids. And it's easy for my kids because she has been a role model for 8 years to them. So I'm excited. I talk a lot about aspiring leadership. I talk a lot about being persistent with your goals. We talk a lot about having gratitude, taking the time to just relish in what you've achieved, and more importantly, finding the gratitude in these things. So I'll give you a little background. I met Molly back in 2011 at the Bama Bash, which it's an incredible softball tournament. It's held in Alabama, obviously, in Tuscaloosa. Some of the best teams in the nation play over a weekend out there. It's at the beginning of the season. The crazy thing was Molly was playing for UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio. She was the catcher. She was just a little young freshman kid, but she was number 22. My daughter was number 22. And we just kind of had this immediate association. Then we just start talking to her. She has celiac. My kids have celiac. I know those are just minor, but I can honestly tell you that there was a connection that the entire family had. And rooting for her that weekend, and I'm going to remind you, we're talking about a freshman in Tuscaloosa, which Alabama has one of the most incredible softball programs in the nation. This kid goes to town over the weekend and is putting up numbers like you wouldn't believe. 3 home runs in a weekend. It was the most phenomenal thing to see a freshman just totally take charge and control. But it was the composure, the mindset, everything about her. And then you'd see her after the game and it was as if she didn't even play a game because she had a smile on her face. It wasn't about her. It was perfect. So that's where that click came in. So when we talk about this being the inaugural Charge Up Guest podcast, this is why I chose her. So this is the fun part. I get to introduce her as the brand new head softball coach at the University of Louisiana, Monroe, a dear friend, one of the most genuine, optimistic people to be around, and definitely an example of what servant leadership looks like. Welcome to the Powercast, Molly Fichtner.
Thank you so much, Victor. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here.
You excited to be back in San Antonio?
I love it. I love it. This is home. My parents are actually in New Braunfels, which is about 45 minutes from here.
It is fun because you grew up in Houston. They retired and they're having fun. They're having more fun than you are, I think.
They absolutely are. I'm trying to schedule with them and every weekend's booked.
That's true because I told them, I was like, what game are you going to? And we don't know yet. I'm like, wow, that's the parents. But they are having so much fun. Here's what I was thinking back to. This is the journey since we met. 2011 to 13, UTSA. 2013 to 2015, University of Alabama. Then grad assistant coach at University of Alabama, 2015-16. And then here's the great thing. We talked about persistence. We talked about mindset. We talked about following your goals and your dreams. This kid worked her tail off, learning, listening, and discovering opportunity. Dartmouth assistant coach, East Carolina assistant coach. All of us were just waiting to see who was going to win the lotto. When it was announced that it was Louisiana Monroe, everybody was so excited. And it wasn't necessarily because she's a head coach. It's because she deserves it. Somebody who has passion, somebody who has that genuine love for the game, but more important for the people who play it. You can't help but cheer for them. And that's why I think you saw so many people really get excited at your appointment. Tell me what it was like when you found out, and then tell me what it was like when you heard from your peers, your mentors. What was that first feeling like?
It was phenomenal. It happened very, very fast. It was late September when I got the phone call, and I went on an on-campus interview and fell in love with it. I fell in love with the school, the administration, and what's ironic about all of it is I have played in, I think, every single Division I school stadium when I played and when I coached, except for ULM. I had never been there before. So I thought that was pretty ironic with the whole process. And it was a little late. I got hired in late September, and it was very, very difficult leaving my team at East Carolina, but also very exciting to take in 23, 24 more girls. I say 24 because we have a student manager as well. So 24 total. But it's been great. And the day it got announced, I think my phone was on 98%. And then 2 hours later, it was on 1%. And I didn't respond to anybody. I think I did call you.
You did. I got the fun message. Yes.
You were a very important one to call. But it was just the feedback. I had alums reaching out. I had people from back home. I had old teammates that I haven't spoken to in a while. Everybody reaching out. So the feedback was remarkable.
You know what the coolest thing was is I'm watching, and it's a press conference to announce the hiring of Molly Fichtner. And I'm like, oh my God, like she's the GOAT. She's big time. They have a press conference to announce the new head coach. And you really were genuine up there. And that had to feel really neat. You're looking out with city leaders, university leaders. And I could tell just by the way your demeanor was, you really felt at home.
I did. It was very, very exciting. I didn't expect the press conference. I think they told me 24 hours before, which it's actually pretty funny because as soon as I got the call and I accepted the job, I packed my Jeep as much as I could. I left the whole house in North Carolina, packed my Jeep because I told myself I got to get there. The team's already in team practice. So I made the drive, I think the next day, the whole 15 hours. My mom actually flew into Atlanta, which was halfway. She made the last 7.5 hours with me. I got to Atlanta and I realized I forgot all of my hang-up clothes. So they told me I'm going to have this press conference, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go to the mall and get something to wear. But it all worked out. It was fantastic. Like I said, all the administrators were there, tons of people around the community. So I got to meet a ton of them. But overall, just overwhelming support so far.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So look, before we kind of jump into some of the questions I have for you on leadership and everything that deals with leadership, I want to get to, I think, the serious questions. And these are ones that are probably going to require a little thought, but they're ones I think the listeners are going to take real serious. This is what Charge Up is all about. So you have 3 choices: start 'em, bench 'em, cut 'em. And I'm going to go with Jackie Traina, Sydney Littlejohn, and Patrick Murphy. Start 'em, bench 'em, cut 'em.
Oh gosh. I'd have to start Patrick Murphy.
Woo!
I got to start. He's my mentor. I got to start him. I've got to bench Sydney Littlejohn, and I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna cut Jackie because I know she's gonna forgive me after this.
By the way, Jackie did coach with her at Dartmouth and was a great roommate. She probably will say, "Really?" And you'll explain to her. I knew you wouldn't get angry.
I'm going to actually tell her to make sure she listens just so she can hear it.
Congratulations, Murph. You made the list on top. Like she didn't even have to think about it, by the way. So let's see. Are you a hunter or are you a gatherer?
Hunter.
I was wondering why it took you so long to even answer that question. Okay. What's your go-to word?
Awareness.
Nice. Awareness. I like that. Why is the tennis ball fuzzy?
Because that's how it was designed.
Why is the sun hot?
Yeah.
Because it is. So
I actually don't know.
The science behind it?
No.
Come on.
I swear I don't.
So it's fuzzy to help control the spin and to give it insulation as it hits, because if that rubber just hit,
it would fly up.
You would literally have no time to hit it. So it kind of does that, but it also helps with the spin. See the little things.
I did not know that.
See, at Charge Up, we ask the tough questions. This is big time. These are where the big questions happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just learned something new.
That's how we roll here. That's how we roll, Molly. As you know, Molly, the reason I launched Charge Up was to honor the legacy and especially the leadership lessons of my late father, Vic Pisano, carrying on his legacy. But my thing was I didn't want to hold so close to the vest everything he had taught me because they really were valuable lessons. They were things that I think other people could apply and use in their life. So it was my way to kind of keep the baton, keep running, keep going. One thing you and I do share is an incredible love for family. Tell me how important your family is and tell me how important they are in your life in general and carrying the legacy of what they've taught you.
Oh, they're absolutely everything to me. Anybody that knows me knows how family oriented I am. And my mom and dad have just been overwhelmingly supportive throughout my entire softball career, even before that. Actually, because of them, I am where I am today. My sister, my older sister, she's 2 years older than me. She's a physician assistant here in Houston. She just got married in June to a wonderful, wonderful man. They both graduated from Texas A&M.
Whoop.
There you go. But they've just been great. The entire time I've played softball, and my sister wasn't really ever into sports, but the fact that she still supported my love and she knew that was my love, it was great. It was fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better family. And I'll tell you a quick story real quick is when I was at UTSA, even before that, my mom and I would always take a road trip out to Oklahoma City to watch the Women's College World Series. And that used to be the dream. And it is the dream for a lot of young players. After my sophomore year, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching the World Series. You have Alabama, you have Cal there, you have a bunch of teams. My parents and my sister sat me down, and my sister didn't know too much about, the sport of softball. Neither did my mom. My dad was a little bit more involved with the X's and O's. God love my sister and mom. And we're sitting down for dinner, and they said, "Do you want to play for one of these teams?" And I said, "Of course, yeah. Well, I just want to play in the World Series. I think that would be great." And they said, "Well, why don't you do it?" And I said, "Well, because I am at UTSA, I have, I'm 3 hours from home. I have great friends there. I have a great coaching staff. It's comfortable. I got a full ride scholarship. You're not paying a dime. It's fantastic." And they said, "It's not about the money. It's about the experience." And they knew I wanted to coach. They knew I was passionate about coaching. And they said, "I think that you need to learn from some of the best." So at that point, it was kind of the turning point for me in the sense where, yes, it'd be great to be in that spotlight and play in the Women's College World Series, but it would be even greater for my long-term career to learn from these coaches that have been there, that have gone through that, and what I can pick up from them. At that moment, I said, well, that would be a great dream. And my mom and dad looked at me and they said, "We will postpone retirement if that's what you want to do. Do not worry about college, not worry about anything," because in order for me to transfer, I had to go out of state. And it was just crazy to be able to give up 3 hours from home, a full ride, just to go out of state, to pay out of state tuition, because there's not going to be any scholarships available at that point. And so we did it. I called UTSA, I got my release, but that never would have happened if I didn't have their support. The fact that they could sacrifice a couple more years to work for me, to live out my dream, was something that I can never pay them back for.
I love that story. I mean, it goes to show the willingness of parents. But I got to look back at this one and you got to wonder, was that one sacrifice, was that one moment when they asked you the question, you called it the turning point, but that one moment they asked you the question, the trajectory of your life completely changes. I mean, you're probably with your family today and there's a different vibe because like you literally are living your dream still. And there's a lot of people who don't get to do that.
And it's all because of them. To be honest, there's no way that I probably would have ever done that on my own without them.
What was the first day like stepping on the field at Road Stadium?
Exciting. It was nerve-wracking. I mean, any type of change, in my opinion, whether it's good or bad, it produces anxiety. Right? It creates some sort of anxiety. You get a promotion, you get a little anxiety or you get laid off, you get anxiety. So regardless, there was anxiety for me. However, before I even stepped foot on the field, the support I had from my teammates who didn't even know me. I mean, the day it was announced, I had Kayla Bro, who was on the team at the time, that was a senior All-American. I'm getting a phone call from Eugene, Oregon, and that's where she's from. And I'm like, okay, this was just, posted 5 minutes ago. Surely this isn't her, but I answer, and it is. "Hey, Molly, how are you? My name's Kayla Bro. Tell me all about you. Tell me about your sister. Tell me about your family." Wanted to know everything about me as a person. While I'm on the phone with her, I'm getting phone calls, St. Louis, Missouri, Courtney Conley. I'm getting all these different girls on the team calling me, texting me. Jackie Trainer was in Japan. She shot me a text. Hey, I can't talk on the phone, but, looking forward to meeting you. So right off the bat, in the first 24 hours that this was all announced, I felt at home. Wow, these are my sisters now. They care about me. They invest. They wanted to know about Molly Fichtner, the person, not what can you do for our softball program.
So when people talk about the culture that Coach Murphy has created, when people talk about the legacy of the players before you, it's real, isn't it?
100%. You cannot even put it into words, Victor. It's just that unbelievable. Going into that program, you leave a better person. You leave with a million lifelong friends that you played with.
One of the things that we do talk about a lot is how important it is to discover your why. I think a lot of people go through life with a lot of what ifs. They also have a lot of regrets, and regret is a completely avoidable emotion because you can take action. But when somebody looks at you and sees what you've accomplished, is there a simple answer to what is your why?
I think my why, and I actually heard this, the Dartmouth athletic director said this one time in a staff meeting. And as soon as he said it, that is my why. That's when I realized that is my why. I knew what I loved and what inspired me and what motivated me every single day. But until he said it, I didn't know how to put it into words. And this was what he said. There's more to life than softball. But fortunately for me, there's more to softball than just softball. And that is what I'm sitting there and I'm like, that is me. Yes, softball is a fantastic game that I love so much. I love the X's and O's. I love winning. I love everything associated. But there's so much more to be learned through softball. And that is my why. My why is developing these young females to be successful in life after college. Develop these young females to know what it looks like to be a good person and what it looks like to raise a family. But all of that, just be a better person in life. And that's what I want out of them and out of this coaching. And now, don't get me wrong, my job is to win ball games, bottom line. But I also want to dill hope. I want to provide inspiration and motivation for these females to get their 4-year degree and be successful in life after college.
It's so important, I think, with people who participate in any sport, in any extracurricular activity, anything that requires time above and beyond, shared with other people, where you have a role. It prepares you for life in ways you can't imagine. And those that don't do those things, I think it's a culture shock once they get out. Yep. The same thing for you.
Absolutely. And what I like to tell the girls too is softball is not an extracurricular. It's a core class. So if you treat it as such, you're going to understand the importance of it. Softball provides you so much of that help. And sports in general, not just softball, but sports in general help you. And it really is a core class. And if you can get student athletes to buy into the importance so that they might not, if you don't like your professor in English, you're not going to just drop the class right away. You're going to try to figure it out, hopefully first. And I think that that's how student athletes have to be as well. Is if you don't like the coach, if something's not going right, you're not playing, you've got to stick it out because there's so much to be learned through those moments because you got to get that core class in order to be successful for life after college.
But again, it just goes back to what we talk about with young leadership. The time is now. When I say now, I'm not telling you what age. If you feel in your heart that you can contribute or you want to give back, if you feel gratitude, if you feel empathy, if you feel a desire to help others, that's leadership. That's what's talking to you. And the time is now to discover the resources, find where you can do these things. Because if you just do the status quo, then I believe life becomes the status quo. Am I right? Are these girls getting a different experience because of what they did in high school?
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. It starts in high school. It does. It's especially because you are right. There's maybe 3% of high school athletes that go on to play college. For them, that might be their 4 years that they can learn how to do that if they're not going to go on to the next level or play intramurals or anything like that. Those 4 years are vital for them to learn how to work with a team and to understand what it looks like to be on time for a practice at 6 a.m.
Okay, so Molly, 2 questions, simple ones here. What fires you up?
When student athletes text me and it's success outside of softball related, when they've done something for somebody and they're excited and they want to share it, that fires me up. It also fires me up when we make some really good plays on the softball field.
That tends to help. That's a given though,
yes.
right?
But I love those text messages when I get, and I still get some from my Dartmouth student athletes where they go out in the community, they make an impact, and they want to share it, and they want to share their story. And when I get that personal text, that fires me up. And that makes me so happy. That fills my bucket.
That's the bond.
That fills my bucket more than anything, is seeing them be successful and wanting to share their happiness with me. And then, of course, as well on the softball field, you turn a double play, I'm going to be so excited. You hit a home run, I'm going to be that fires me up as well.
Okay, now the flip side, what wears you down? Because, as leaders, we might not expose it. We might not communicate it outright. We obviously have those mentors that we can talk with. But what is something, what I love about you is your vulnerability. You wear your emotions on your sleeve. You're a simple person. What wears you down?
I would definitely say negativity, complaining. That just wears me out. I don't like it. I don't have time for it, so to say. And Allison Habits, who's the associate head coach at Alabama, she said something, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. She said, you have 2 choices in life. You can be a fountain or you can be a drain. There's no in between. So you can either pour love out, be this beautiful, bright colored fountain, or you can suck the life out of everybody you're around. When I get around drains, it's hard for me, and it's hard for me to overcome that negativity and complaining, because I got to try a little bit harder to get them on board so that my fountain still, is going without being sucked into that complaining, that negativity.
That's an easy metaphor to kind of relate back to.
It's fantastic. She's a brilliant lady.
Yeah, Coach Allie. How long have Coach Allie and Coach Murphy coached together now?
21 years. I think this might be... No, it might be more. It might be about 23 years. So a pretty long time.
I mean, that's a marriage.
Yes.
I mean, that's crazy. They can think for each other.
They have a great relationship. What they've built there did not happen by accident.
Well, and the beautiful thing is and I'm blessed to have, acquaintance with both of them. When people talk about playing at Alabama, when people talk about, the legacy, the family, the culture, at most universities, they just talk about the head coach. Allie's always in that conversation. It's Coach Murphy and Allie. It's always both of them, which, it's a compliment to the program. It's a compliment to Coach Murphy. It's a compliment, I think, to Coach Allie, the same thing. It just works. The chemistry and that magic is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Allie is, we like to refer to her as a heartbeat. She's someone that on the outside you don't realize, and she doesn't probably get as much credit as she deserves from the outside, and because Murph is obviously the face of the program, but when you go in there, you know her value and you know how special she is. And I think Murph would tell you right now that she is by far the hardest working person. She's fantastic, and Murph loves her and Murph appreciates her. I think that helps too when you see, your head coach appreciate your associate head coach as much as he does. Then you kind of realize too, well, she does do a lot. So it's kind of from the top down, and Murph has created that example for us of this is how much she does. You need to be appreciative. And that's kind of how the legacy started. And put it in one word, when I describe Allie, I just say saint. Oh yeah, I actually saw a quote the other day that said, train them so good that they can leave, but treat them so good that they will stay.
Beautiful. I just did something the other day and we talked about the difference between success and ambition. I had asked somebody to change the way they think. And instead of using the word success, use the word ambition, because ambition is a constant process. Ambition is something that's more top of mind. Success to a lot of people really has an endpoint. You talk about I'm successful. Well, when you say that, it's in a term of you've achieved what you want. Whereas if you say I'm ambitious, the world is an oyster. Like I'm all over this thing. I told him, I said, the great thing about ambition is it's kind of like luck. The harder you work, the luckier you get. The more ambition you have, the more successful you are. They just happen to go together. And I think that's what you're saying is just if you do your job and if you do it right and you're honest and you're fair with integrity and character, things happen for a reason.
Yep. And that's the thing too, is about, like you said, having an end goal. It's hard because once you get there, unfortunately you look for the next goal and you start thinking about that, and you're never truly where your feet are. And you see it a ton, and you see it a ton in coaching too. I think Tim Walton actually said this after his second year of winning the national championship. He said, it's exciting they just won the national championship, the cream of the crop, right? Like the best thing that can happen in college softball. And he made a comment about, well, when I wake up in the morning, it's a whole new day and it starts the next year, because it's just one of those things where you strive so hard to get it. And then once you get it, now what do I do? Mm-hmm. And I think he made just a valid point about just the process and falling in love with the process and surrendering the outcome. And if you get there, great. But at the same time, stay ambitious, like you said, and just keep working.
Failure is an incredible thing to me. I thrive on failure. And when I do talk to people, they think that's a crazy thing to say. And I think it's the association of when you get an F in school, you failed. You have to repeat. You got to start over. Get an F. Get as many Fs as you can in your career, in your life, because it's true. You get a free chance to start over. As long as you learn the lesson and you jump back in the seat, fired up and even more headstrong of achieving that goal. Tell me how you handle failure personally, and then I'm going to follow up with how you coach a team to understand failure. But let's start with you personally.
For me personally, failure is inevitable. And I know, especially in this job, you're going to fail. You're going to lose. Nobody has ever won every single game. Same thing with playing softball, right? I think you learned that lesson early on, that if you're successful 4 out of 10 times, you're an All-American. Well, that's a wake-up call. But there's also, and I think actually working at Dartmouth opened my eyes to failure a ton. And the reason being is because you have all of these high academic students that are also playing a failing sport. So you try to look at it and you're like, okay, well, coach, I'm putting in the work, but I'm not getting the result. In school, when you put in the work and you study,
there's a correlation.
Mm-hmm. So A plus B equals C in school. Well, in softball, you can work as hard as you want, and even if you hit the ball as hard as you can, and it goes right to somebody, you're out. And so it's a failure in the book. So I think that lesson was really important for me in my softball career, is learning how to bounce back. How do you bounce back after going 0 for 4? How do you bounce back after, missing a pass or, missing a thrown ball and then the winning run scores when you're catching behind the plate? So that started back when I was playing. I think coaching it's personally, when I fail, I'm like, okay, well, guess what? I can do it better the next year. And at Dartmouth, my first year coaching, I failed a ton. And it was stressful, but my second year, I knew exactly what to do because I'd made those mistakes before and I knew how to do it right. And every time I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I had that failing moment, because now I've learned from it. And as long as I can learn and continue growing from those moments, I'm fine with that's what makes you grow as a person.
If you failed, it's automatic to assume you tried. What I see so often is there is such a speed at which things occur. Literally, you can ask Alexa and she's about to beep. You can ask Siri, you can do it, and you literally can get an answer in a second. So the art of patience has slowly drifted away from this generation. And for me, for failure comes from experience. Experience is a result of time, which proves the point of patience is a virtue. To be truly patient is to be aware of the situation that you're in, to be aware of where you can improve, to be aware of where you can contribute more to make an impact. But more importantly, patience teaches you a self-awareness that you really can't get anywhere else. You're able to evaluate a period of time. So when I do talk about the millennials, or I have the opportunity to coach a team and discuss these things, today patience is huge for you. And I'm sure you deal with it all the time.
Oh, all the time. And I mean, just for an example, it's, you have a kid that's might be struggling hitting wise, and then they come in for extra 2 days in a row. They're still struggling, and they're even more irritated because they want that instant satisfaction. They want that instant result almost. And so, and even parents nowadays, when I, go recruiting, and I'll hear about a parent that their kid was struggling hitting wise. So the parent went out and bought a new $300 bat. Well, they're trying to find that instant fix, that instant, satisfaction, so to say, where, yeah, it was the bat. Well, I mean, regardless, whatever it is, but they just want that instant result. They want that instead of, okay, you come and work extra every single day in the fall and then it pays off. And I'll be honest with you, I had 4 goals when I went to go play college softball, 4, and only one of them came true until my senior year. In my senior year, my last year of playing, so this is my 20th year of playing softball, my last year playing college ball, the other 3 came true. It took me just being committed to the process since I was, 4 or 5 years old, just being committed to working hard. It's going to pay off at some point, because success, so to say, doesn't tell you when it's going to happen.
Right.
There's no time frame that says, if you do this, you'll be successful. It's one of those things that if you just keep working hard, it'll come eventually. We just don't know when eventually is going to be.
It also proves the point. You never know how close you are to a breakthrough, because some people give up. Like, you could have very easily said, you know what, I achieved one of those 4 and I'm still a better person for it. But you had the tenacity to say, hey, I'm here. I'm going to win. That's that perseverance part where you didn't give up on that dream. So the leadership style that you currently exercise, how much has it changed from, let's just use a baseline of a grad assistant at Alabama and those things that you were taught through observation as well as through example? How has your leadership style changed?
I think before I've always been very, very passionate about servant leadership, especially from catching throughout my career, and knowing that it was okay to be called Jackie Traina's catcher and never have a name. I was okay with that. That just was part of it. And so being able to figure out how to serve everybody around me, because I knew as a catcher, for the betterment of the team, it had to be about everybody else. It was never about me. When I went into the coaching world and all of that, I think for one, I had to develop a ton mentally, as far as how do I communicate with players who aren't me. And I think a lot of young coaches, and I was it as well, when I came out of college, I thought that what worked for me as a hitter would work for this hitter that I'm coaching. What was said to me that worked for me, I would say to that person, instead of actually truly investing in what would get through to them and trying to figure out ways to get out of the box to coach. And I think Shannon Depking, my first coach or my first boss at Dartmouth College, she opened my eyes to that. And especially with those high academic kids, you could say things to Alabama athletes that Dartmouth would just stare at you and just expect something a little bit more, so to say, not smart, but analytical.
Right.
And they just analyze the game a lot more. So what I had to do is I had to teach myself more analytics, more numbers. And so I would sit in my office and go over numbers. So the communication amongst different student athletes is where I think I've grown in the past few years. I think I can also get better at it. But just figuring out what I need to say to them to get them to buy in, get them to understand what I'm trying to get at, and so forth.
What would the 22-year-old Molly, who just jumps into a coaching position at Alabama, say to the head coach of University of Louisiana, Monroe today?
Keep working hard. Don't change based on your title, based on anything. Just stay true to who you are and work hard. Keep your head down and take in all of the information that you can. Be a sponge and learn.
Earlier, you had talked about you are a positive person. You feeling and being authentic. If you love what you're doing as a coach, then every player is going to know it. And from that, there's an excitement that comes, and with excitement comes trust. It's not manufactured. It's organic. It just starts to come because you're not asking for it. You're just like, all I ask you, give me a little bit of trust, and then I'll earn the rest, and you're going to see where we're all going on this mission. I think that's how you've lived your whole life.
Oh, for sure. And I think one thing that people associate love to and positive with, it's always butterflies and rainbows. And that's not the case. I think that my mom provided the best example out of anybody for me growing up. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 12. So at that point, my life has changed forever in the sense where now I've got to check my blood sugar 4 to 6 times a day. I've got to take injections of insulin. Who knows what's going to happen with sports and all this. And it's overwhelming. And that's something where your life changes. And yes, type 1 diabetes changes your life. But at the same time, my thought on it gave me so much more. It gave me the ability to figure out, okay, I'm failing right now at diabetes. I'm not doing a great job, but it's going to be okay. And we're going to get through it. And diabetes has taught me so many lessons. So it's not necessarily it's positive all the time. I'm happy-go-lucky. Everything's working out great, because that's not life. Right? Life has challenges, life has ups and downs, but it's almost a mentality that no matter what happens, it's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out, and just going in that aspect towards the whole positive word is that doesn't mean that I'm not seeing the negative, not necessarily seeing the negativity, but not acknowledging the trials of life. It's just a matter of I'm going to look at the trials of life as something that's going to help me, something that's going to build me into who I am and who I'm supposed to be moving forward.
Now, we share a simple word that ignites our passion, and that is gratitude. I know I have my way of talking about it. I want to hear you explain gratitude.
Gratitude is just being as thankful as you can for everything you have. I mean, that's the most simple way I can say it. Being appreciative of where you're at in that moment and not looking anywhere else in the future of what you might want, and being appreciative of what you have.
Isn't it crazy? Because it's a simple word and we all talk about it, saying that same thing. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? One of the examples I give when I speak, I have a journal each night that I write down the 5 things I'm most grateful for. And they don't include my family, my wife, my kids, because my hopes are that's, of course, going to be what I'm most grateful for. But it makes me think outside the box and recognize literally what's going on. It also proves to me if I am living life or if I'm worried about something and not in the present. But over the years of doing it, the great thing is I'll get to 2 or 3 and can't think of anything. So I'll challenge myself and I'll add those on to the next day. You know, it can be as easy as holding a door open, saying thank you. I ask someone, how are you? And they just quickly say, fine. I'll literally stop and say, no, really, how are you? It goes back to that simple act and gesture of gratitude and how it can change the momentum of a day for anybody, but especially yourself.
When I came in, you're always kind of nervous about how welcoming is this team going to be? Yeah, it's just, there's a ton of unknowns. A couple things that I'm pretty passionate about is having core values, right? And standards. And has nothing to do with softball. It's just how we live our life. And this is how we're going to live our life. And it's SHIP, it's SHIP, and it's selfless, hardworking, impactful, and positive. And those are our 4 core values at ULM.
Charge Up is about leadership. That's the platform. It's leadership in its simplest, most true form. How does Molly Fichtner define leadership?
Can I say charge up?
Always. You can always say that, and there's a tip included.
I love it. My favorite leadership is servant leadership. Being able to empower those around you. And one of my favorite quotes is, you don't inspire people by telling them how amazing you are. You inspire them by showing them how amazing they are. And that to me is true leadership, when you can empower somebody to do something they never thought they were capable of.
Here's the fun part of getting to interview you. I get to move from leadership, and let's talk about the Warhawks in 2019. I feel like I'm on an ESPN network. I'm so excited. We've got Molly Fichtner here, head coach of ULM Warhawks, talking 2019 softball. Let's talk about 2019 softball. I met these girls last month. It's the Southern hospitality thing, because it took about 10 minutes before I felt like I had 24 children. And I shouldn't say children, but, young adult daughters. They were so outgoing. They were so mature and happy, and they had an enthusiasm. What do you see for this team?
Well, we have some very experienced seniors. We have some really, really great athletes on the team overall. I think them as people, they are entertaining to the max. There's never a dull moment, never a dull moment. And we have a ton of freshmen. We have 1 transfer. So it is a pretty new, pretty inexperienced team, I would say, because we have such a big freshman class coming in, and we have quite a few pitchers. I know our pitching coach, Melanie Coyne, has stayed really, really busy with them, getting them geared up. But I think what you're going to see in 2019 and what my hope is to see an exciting team. A team that enjoys softball and wants to be out there, and don't look at it like it is a mandatory type deal, but it's you want to be there, right? I'm grateful to be here. I want to put on my jersey. I want to get up at 8 a.m. to go hit BP before we play. That's what I want our program to look like in 2019. I want to see us exciting to watch, and I want to see us compete and work. Like I said before, we're going to keep our head down, and we're just going to go to work, and whatever happens outcome-wise will happen.
It goes back to what we talked about earlier. You do your job, good things tend to follow you. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to see how special this group is. I want you to see how special Molly is. If you are on Twitter, I want you to go to @ULM Softball, and I want you to follow this group, and I want you to encourage them. I want you to just tell them you know who they are. Push them. Tell them some great words. Do something. But take 30 seconds of your day to inspire a group of girls who sacrifice so much, who give everything they have, and are on what I think is a road to an incredible journey, but follow them. I can't thank you enough, Molly. Like I said, I did this for a reason, and at the conclusion, I realized it's exactly what it was meant to be. And then here's the craziest thing of all. We are going to meet where it all began, and that's with Coach Murphy at the Bama Bash. I thank Molly. I thank you for listening. We are all over for podcasts. You can go to iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You can always find it on Libsyn. You can go to chargeuptoday.com and find it there. Pass it on. Tell your friends about it. The only way we grow our community, the only way we have the ability to affect others and make a positive impact is by growing that community. So I thank you for listening. Molly, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Victor. I appreciate it. This is fantastic.
I'm going to let you do the closeout. You know how to close this baby out? You've had some practice.
And don't forget, my friends, charge up.
I love it. There it is. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for listening.
Thanks again.